Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world." Good morning. Welcome to a short biblical reflection on the Gospel according to John, chapter 11, verses 1 up to 45. It is about the rising of Lazarus, the Gospel reading for the Fifth Sunday of Lent, year A. This reading is also quite long as in the preceding Sundays, therefore I divided it into two parts that fit on the two screens. Let me start first with these observations, as some who would read very literary or even sometimes too literary, they will pose some particular questions. In verse 6, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. And then verse 17, 18. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away. First, we have statement about staying still 2 days after receiving the information, and then when he arrived, it was already 4 days when Lazarus was in the tomb. Even then, the distance was very short, about 2 miles. This translation already interprets the Greek expression, which refers to a particular measure that is unknown, so also interprets this measure to the distance that we know. Even if the road was very hard, very rough, it would not take so much time. Therefore, some would pose question why Jesus was waiting so much. There are some elements in the biblical stories that are less relevant, and then the other matters which are more relevant. So therefore, posing the question why he was taking so much time, the answer we get already in the text itself, that Jesus in verse 4 explains why this miracle serves a particular purpose. This illness does not lead to death, rather it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. And then Jesus also is talking about the death in very spiritual way, because in fact the miracles in the Gospel according to John, they are also designed, they are called as signs, because they are signs in order to show Jesus' identity, beginning with that miracle when Jesus changed water into wine. And now Jesus is talking about the death not in physical sense, but in spiritual sense. Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to awaken him. However, the disciples did not understand him, therefore they answered, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right." Therefore, Jesus needs to tell them explicitly that Lazarus is dead, and then the Thomas, the twin, was rushing with an answer, probably not even well understanding what he was stating. "Let us go also, that we may die with him." And then follows this beautiful dialogue, which I read already at the beginning, between Martha and Jesus, where Martha professes her strong faith in the resurrection, as well in the identity of Jesus, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world. In the second part now, Mary addresses Jesus with similar word, practically the same as Martha. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And then the evangelist describes Jesus' emotions. Jesus that was weeping and was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. And then when he states that Jesus began to weep, there is also a reaction of the crowd, some in a positive way. See how he loved him, however, the others in very negative. Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? And then concludes with a encounter again between Martha and the dialogue between Martha and Jesus. Martha, who professed her strong faith in the resurrection, she could not probably, most probably, she could not imagine that Jesus would raise her brother from death right away. Therefore, she answers, Lord, already there is a strange because he has been dead for 4 days. And therefore, Jesus tells her, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? And then Jesus, risen Lazarus, had brought him to life, and then consequently brought many to faith. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what Jesus did, believed in him, because this is the last sign that Jesus performed in the Gospel according to John, and this sign leads to Jesus' resurrection. Therefore, the death of Lazarus prefigures Jesus' death, while raising Lazarus from death, bringing him to life, prefigures the resurrection of Jesus himself. And therefore, answering to those who would be rushing and posing questions about some secondary details, why he was waiting so much time, how he was taking so much time instead of coming immediately and curing Lazarus. John, at the end of his gospel, concludes that whatever is written there was written that we may believe. I would like to wish you a nice day, a nice reflection on this gospel reading. God bless you.